Welcome to the Unfuck Your Fitness podcast. I am your host, Christy Castillo, and I'm here to give you real talk and cut the BS so you can actually enjoy building a body you love. I'm a personal trainer obsessed with giving you simple action steps to take you from feeling stuck to feeling sexy. Let's go. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to today's episode. I'm so excited to do this intro for this guest episode. I recorded an episode with Dr. John Rusin. We met on Instagram. He is an America's top 50 health and fitness expert. He is the founder and CEO of Pain-Free Performance, which is an amazing book. It's huge. It's like 600 pages. It is so good. I don't even like to read. Nothing keeps my attention. But this book I read, I loved it. I read it. I looked at the photos. I picked it apart. I just love everything about it. I reached out to him pretty shortly after he had given me the book and told him I got it in the mail. I'll be in touch with my thoughts. I was then in touch a couple of days after, I think, saying, this book is phenomenal. I've shared it on my stories once or twice. This book is something, it's called Pain-Free Performance. So that's exactly what it's talking about. But along with that, the way that it is written is so good. It taught me things. It had me look at things a different way, even as a personal trainer and someone who coaches hundreds of women. But it also would be great for the beginner, for the intermediate, for the advanced. It is such a well-written book. You will understand things. You will learn so much. I just can't tell you enough good things about this book. I can't even put it into words. I encourage all of you to go buy this book, not because I get any money from it. I don't, but it's amazing. I really just believe that this is so good. It's going to be so helpful for you. The way that it teaches you, gives you knowledge, gives you education, teaches you about your body and how to move fluidly and mobility and flexibility and strength. It's like holistic health at its finest. And it's so good. It's the book that I will refer to everyone now that has a question about anything physically related. It's just so good as a personal trainer to know that he's such a good, trustworthy, honest person in this field that you can go follow on Instagram. I believe he said TikTok, YouTube. He says it at the end. Forgive me. Links will be where you can find them to go follow him. But he is someone that I think the information is great. You can tell he's just in this for the right reasons. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had him on here. But he just seems like a really, really great person. He knows what he's talking about, very trustworthy, knows his shit. He's coached MLB, NFL, he's been overseas. Like he's just very well seasoned, but explains things in such a way that I find very hard to find in this industry. And I'm just honored. You are going to love our conversation. We talk about so many different things, from Instagram bots and the bullshit that you will find online, which I know you guys love, us unfucking the bullshit. And we talk about, fitness in your 40s, women's fitness versus men's fitness. Is there a big difference there? So it's just a great conversation. And I'm so thankful that I had him on the show. So without further ado, enjoy this episode. Hey, John, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here, truly. I'm really excited to dive in and talk to you today. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for the welcome.
Yeah, of course. So I've been following you just for a little while, probably honestly since you reached out, sent me your book, and I've been just kind of diving in. And I'll be honest, that's not that it's, not to toot your horn, but it's kind of rare that I really want to dive into a book or an Instagram. Like, it's just your page and your book is so full of information. Obviously, we're not going to just talk about the book, but I just want to rave on it for a minute because truly, like, I just don't share a lot of things that I don't share anything that I don't believe in, but I don't share a lot of stuff on my stories and just, I can't stay on one person's page and like keep getting information, I guess. So I just think your information is so great. The book is so great. And I'm just truly so excited to dive in and get some information from you and talk about this. I've never had someone on the podcast to talk about the pain-free part of it and just all of this together, which is something that I wouldn't say I'm passionate about, but I do love. I mean, I work with so many different ages that all of that comes into play, and that's just real life. So I'm really excited to
That's
dive
one
into
hell of an
this.
intro. I appreciate that. And the fact that you got through a 576 page book, it's a testament to you. You stuck with it and you're here.
It was so good. Yeah, I couldn't help it. Yeah, having you on was kind of a no-brainer. I'm like, okay, I need to read through this. And then I really couldn't put it down. There's something for everyone in there. I don't know. I've been talking about it to my clients, and just the way that it's written, and I'm not even a reader. I don't even know the last time I finished a short book. So like, just to be able to look through there, to be able to like look at the visuals, to read how it's explained, to understand it, like I was just completely blown away. Like, if this is the standard of books, it's so great. So thank you for writing it. What is your background? What led you to writing the book? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've been a coach, a strength and conditioning coach for the last 20 years. And I also have a degree in physical therapy, exercise science, and kinesiology. And I spent the first 10 years of my career working with high performance athletes, NFL, MLB, Olympians. I was overseas working with Olympic committees. And then about 10 years ago, I transitioned into what I do today, which is a career educator. Health and longevity is really my key focus. And I am the owner and founder of the Pain-Free Performance Specialist Certification, which is America's fastest growing and biggest privately held certification. So you're wondering why there's so much information on my Instagram or why I just wrote a textbook. It's because in the last decade, that's what I've been focusing in on is education, not only for people that want to learn how to train pain-free and be able to get results long-term, but also for a lot of coaches, physical therapists. We have physicians that come through our system. And it's really cool because we can bring all these people together. And I don't think that there's anyone out there that doesn't want to feel better, that doesn't want to be pain-free and doesn't want to get results long-term. So Pain-Free Performance has been able to bring all of these people together from all different walks of the industry and walks of life. And that's how I got here today.
That's so cool. Yeah, I think that, I don't know if that's a talent or it's just something. It just kind of blew my mind how you could take a beginner and give them this book or this information. And you can take myself, I've been doing this 15 years and still kind of learning something. Like, I still wanted to read the whole book, and it was still, yes, it's going to help me to train people. But also I think just the way that there's literally something for everyone in that book. And I've never, as a coach, had one book specifically that I could just hand someone. So thank you for that. I mean, seriously, I have ladies that are just beginning, have never touched a dumbbell. They have, 2-pound, 3-pound, 5-pound dumbbells at home they don't know how to use. And then I have gym goers that are, used to be, yes, athlete, collegiate athletes. And so to have something, a tool that I can give them to further educate them as well as while they're working with me it was super cool. It really just blew my mind. And yeah, it kept my attention, which I love to learn that kind of stuff. But it makes sense now that why you have so much knowledge, education, hands-on. And I think it's that hands-on piece where I saw you talking somewhere, probably a reel, about how, you can have all the information and not everyone does. We have that in our career, but not everyone does. But it's that application. And you make it so easy to understand and apply. You don't go back and forth. It's not complicated. It's a very specific, you even name them, we have this method, and it's so simple to follow. So I think, did that come about naturally, or was that something that you had planned to name it on purpose?
No, I think this is totally organic. I got asked to speak at an event in 2014, and it was one of these big conferences. There's like 800 people, and there's all these speakers. And I get up there and I give a 2-hour lecture on soft tissue modalities. And the whole place is silent the entire time. Everyone's paying attention, but like the whole place is silent. And then one of the other presenters comes up to me after I give that. He goes, "Man, that was extraordinary information, but I have no idea what you just said." And that was my entry point into like trying to be an educator in the fitness industry. And then I was like, oh shit, like you're right. This isn't academics. This isn't going in to do a PhD dissertation. This is trying to take really high academic qualities and information and then bring it back down to, hey, what are the core principles behind it? And then what can we actually be actionable on when it comes to people utilizing this information to make their lives better? And it is always a work in progress. But I think over the last 10 years of being able to educate and get in front of tens of thousands of coaches and professionals in the field, you get so much better at being able to message that to that population. And then automatically, I get a lot better with my clients when it comes to making sure that I can communicate simply and they can take action on it. And they can actually start to stack some of this progress to get to the point where they're seeing notable momentum. But it has not always been that way. It is definitely a work in progress, but it's one of those things that I think pain-free performance, the biggest part that made it difficult, and it took 3 years to write, was we took professional education and we tried to simplify it down in terms of the message and the storytelling and the systems. So somebody that has never trained in their life could come in and take some value from it. My mom at 74 years old can go in and work on the programs and understand what she's doing. And of course, the coaches and the therapists could absolutely go through and utilize that system professionally. But I think that's ended up being where a vast majority of the work was simplifying the messaging, knowing very well that the system was what it was.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I understand that. Kind of when I chose the name for this podcast, it was like, you're essentially unfucking it for us who, for people that don't understand, because you can stand there and say all the big words. And that's kind of where I felt like I was getting coached or what I was learning. Like, okay, I know all of this, but when people are coming to me and asking me how to do it, I don't know what to tell them. They don't understand the big words that I'm saying or, some of the things that I'm saying. So it's like, I have to figure out how I'm understanding this and then how they would understand it. So I understand the process there, but it's so valuable once you do that. I feel like I could just reach the masses. And I also love how you have not story time in there, but you reel it back. That's what people kind of about the podcast too. They're like, I like to hear your stories about it. I was actually talking to a client kind of off topic, but just last night, and she was having a rough day with eating and, snacking and all the things. And I had also had a rough day. How many years into this, right? A professional that people look up to and all the things. And I was telling her, like, I've actually had the same kind of day. Yes, I'm going to coach you through it, but I'm also going to tell you that that's exactly what I did today. But my thought process was X, Y, and Z. And she's like, it's so nice that it sucks that you have that problem still, because it makes her realize it's never going to be fixed 100%. But that's just the reality of the situation, is that I'm always going to be tempted with sweets. I love them, and it is what it is. But it kind of goes back to that, where people want to know a little bit about you writing the book. Otherwise, it's just big words that they don't think it's real, because they think you are someone who they can't be like you, I guess, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I think there is something powerful about an origin story, about putting your ego aside and say, hey, I was there exactly where you were. I've gone through these struggles. I've had these pitfalls. I've hit these plateaus. I've had pain and injuries myself. But along the way, these are the people that helped me be able to mentor me in the systems and develop them. And this is what you're currently learning. I never wanted to be an educator out there in the fitness industry that was just telling people what to do without ever having done it myself, let alone having showed the process of the evolution of how we get to this point. Because a lot of people will look at like, oh, wow, like wrote a book, has the certification, all these clients traveling the world. And it's like, no, I remember being 19 years old in my first coaching job. And I sucked. I didn't know anything. I put my high school athlete through like bench press and leg press. And those were the only two exercises they did for 45 minutes. And I sent them home, and it was terrible. But we all have a starting point. But I think that when some of those aha moments happen, when we start to go, whoa, I can start to put some of these pieces together. That's what pain-free performance is. It's essentially the blueprint and the system of how we would look at movement individual to the person in the way that they're presenting, because not everyone's the same. But also in a structure of a rebuilding plan of like, hey, if you're having pain or injuries, or you're having a vicious cycle of problems that are keeping you sidelined, here's a way to be able to go in and utilize this, but it's going to be very individual to you, your needs, your wants, your goals, your body type, your body size, your anthropometry, your joint types, all these different things. But I think that when we fall back on at least the coaches and definitely the clients having a general understanding of like the principles behind what we're doing, then it becomes very powerful, because they can at least conceptualize, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing, but then being able to have an individual approach to be able to go in and actually have success one-on-one. That is really the key to being able to utilize that system. But without the principles and without the origin stories, it's all kind of academics. I think that's what makes it a little bit more real. And then running our 2-day certification courses,
Yeah.
that's what always made the environment electric, is that we were never too proud to say that we weren't in your shoes. We absolutely have been in your shoes, but here's how we started to optimize and being able to go through the evolution of coaching mastery. And I don't think there's a whole lot of like quote unquote experts out there that have that amount of humility to be able to say, I was a beginner and I'm still learning today. But that's exactly what I wanted that to be able to express in the book.
Yeah, I feel like that really helps it become relatable while
Exactly.
still being very, very educational, which is awesome. It is a talent, but it's also just the willingness to say, hey, I've been here and this is what I learned and this is how I put it together and this is how I can say it so that you can understand it and put it together too. Let's talk a little bit about, you were talking about the way that you structure your program. I really liked that because it had all the pieces. If you're kind of structuring that, you talk about the 12 weeks minimum to kind of reach a goal and how you set that up. Let's dive into that a little bit because I think that's really, really helpful.
Yeah, well, let's first define like what a holistic, well-rounded plan should look like and what are the pieces that actually encapsulate that. Because I think a whole lot of people are missing out on this. The big mistake that I see made right now is like somebody will go into a fitness solution and they'll go, hey, running's going to fix my fat loss problems. Strength training is going to make me strong. But they don't actually have like a balanced plan that is hitting on all the physical characteristics that we know to be good and true in terms of health and longevity. So those 6 characteristics are power, moving fast, strength, lifting heavy loads, hypertrophy, which is essentially your body composition, trying to build muscle and lose fat. Cardio and conditioning is training your heart for heart health, low line baseline of low intensity, and also high VO2 max. And then mobility, training through full range of motion and being able to unlock those ranges of motion. And then athleticism, being able to move through free space, be able to learn new motor skills, and essentially be a lifelong learner of your movement. So all my programs and every single program that I have, either whether it's team training, whether it's a professional athlete, whether it's my ladies over 40 programs, they're always going to have all 6 physical characteristics that are at least managed and maintained throughout a training cycle. But the way in which I would balance out like a 12-week plan, for example, is that I would go through and have certain emphases on 1, 2, maybe 3 of those physical characteristics while maintaining the other ones. Like I am not a big believer on going all in on one thing. All in on one thing ends up burning people out and breaking people down very quickly. And it's a non-sustainable plan for your health performance and longevity, no matter what your specific goal is. But I'm a big believer that if we can just be more well-rounded with our training across the board, no matter who you are, you're going to feel really good, you're going to function really well, and you're going to have more sustainable and adaptable change over time. And that is super unpopular to say in the fitness industry today because everything is so
Yes.
micro specialized today. It's like these tiny niche
Yes.
populations with these even more niche goals in this stage of life. And here's the only thing that will work for you. That's just simply not the case. If you're a human being, you're going to be able to adhere to these principles and be able to take huge benefit from them as long as we actually maintain them all.
Yeah, and you're so right. I posted something I think it was a couple weeks ago probably about a girl had something about growing her glutes so big she could fit a charcuterie board on it or something, and that shit drives me so crazy. Not because it's annoying and it's kind of stupid, kind of funny, but I get it. It's just for clicks, and I understand. But someone like me, you, us, it's so frustrating to me because then I have clients that come wanting to just build glutes, knowing full well they're not mobile, their range of motion is terrible. Just in general, like you're missing the whole point of this. So yeah, it's super unsexy to say what we're kind of saying here. But the bad thing is that everyone kind of gets to a point. Even myself, I was powerlifting and just lifting super, super heavy and working on strength and working on muscle growth and a specific body composition. And my whole posterior chain was so tight because I wasn't working on mobility, no range of motion, no stretching. And what's the point? And then eventually I hurt myself. You can't lift anymore. So everybody gets to the point where what they ultimately want is that holistic approach. We just get there in kind of a roundabout way that's not fun. We don't come to someone usually saying, I want a holistic programming, but essentially that's what you need. So that's our job to, point them in that direction. But I want to, do you have anything to add to that, I guess, before I cut you off?
Yeah, I think that people are forced into a crossroads, and many times we're just going to do what we want to do as people across any aspect of your life. Training is no different. But I think that at least with my clients that come in and they're ready for change, like behavioral change, it's because they've either hit pain, they've hit a plateau in their performance, they were having an injury that sidelined them, or their situation in life changes. Using myself as an example, I've always been pretty well-rounded in terms of my own training because I've always trained the way that my athletes and my clients have. But I think that it was very humbling like 3 or 4 years ago. I have a 10-year-old son, Cam, and he started to want to play sports like pretty seriously and practice sports and be out on the basketball court in the winters. He wanted to be playing baseball in the summers. And all of a sudden I was like, hey, I'm an ex Division I baseball player. I'm this and that. I'm in the best shape of any dad out there. But all of a sudden, I find myself throwing 200-300 batting practice pitches, and my arm is not ready for it. And then I'm running the court, and I'm like, "Whoa! I hope I don't get hurt out here." And all of a sudden, it was very, very humbling to say, like, "Hey, maybe I need to prepare for this because now this is my new North Star.
Yeah.
I want to be able to participate with my son in every stage of what he's doing. I want to be able to coach him, and I want to be able to not have to sit out on the sidelines because I'm broken down and hurt." And it changed a little bit of my programming. All of a sudden, I went more into mobility and athleticism. I went more into being able to have the base cardiovascular abilities to withstand 200 pitches of batting practice. And it really was one of those things that I think without that, I wouldn't have been forced to have to adapt, but I was. And many of my clients come to me that way. I think parenthood is a huge kick in the ass for people. I also think hitting the age of 40 or 50 is a huge eye opener for many people. And then especially when you have a more catastrophic injury that sidelines you for multiple months or puts you into a surgical suite and back into physical therapy, and then you're let out of physical therapy and you're like, where the hell do I go from here? Those are those crossroads where I think that people have an opportunity. Some people take that opportunity and they start to train smarter. They start to identify weak links, become more well-rounded, be a little bit more mindful with what they're doing in the gym and outside of the gym. But we also have those people that it's going to take them a couple more years or even another decade to continue to make the same mistakes. It's the old adage of like the high school football player at 47 years old wondering why his high school football strength conditioning plan is not working like it was when it was 18. It just doesn't work that way. We have different seasons of life. Our needs evolve and our lifestyle evolves. But I think that one thing that we need to do is not be too proud to just stay dogmatic and do the one thing, but instead be open-minded because physicality should be a lifelong endeavor. Your health should be a lifelong endeavor, and you need to actively be participating in that no matter how old you are, no matter what your skills look like, no matter what your goal is. I think that the more that we grow and evolve with the process, the better it is for us because we actually get to enjoy it, feel good, and be able to have all those other 23 hours of the day outside of the gym be better off because of the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's... Maybe we already are, but I think it's time we normalize not training the same for our entire life.
Spot on.
Because you're right. It's same with me. Like it's something I had some health issues and that I couldn't train the way. And I will never, I will not. I'll figure it out. I'm a figure outer. So I'm like, okay, well, if I can't train like that, but I still want these results, this is what I have to do. But you're right. It feels like a setback. I mean, I think in the beginning, it feels like, oh, I have kids. Now I have to work out differently. I have an injury. I have to work out differently. I have to throw 200 pitches. I have to do something differently. Whatever it is, I don't know why there's so much shame or like frustration around it because it's just like, well, it is what it is. I'm getting older. I want to look differently. I want to feel differently. It's different. I think maybe that's not talked about enough. And I think part of that is too with the specificity of the Instagram, things like that, where it's just this specific niche thing, which is something that I do want to talk about and there's nothing wrong with this because I do see a lot of this form tips and things like that. And form tips are fantastic, obviously, and we need those. But I do want to talk about how in your training, in general, but especially your training, how you don't have to train a certain way. You don't have to squat a certain way. How your body is built, you're going to squat differently. If you can't squat at all, there are different, exercises you can do. Because I feel like a lot of people do give up when they see maybe me working out a certain way and think, well, I can't work out like her. I can't work out at all. So let's kind of move into that realm of things to help my clients, my listeners, if they are feeling stuck, if they're feeling like they have pain or they have limitations, need to pivot, what is the first thing you take them through?
Well, first off, comparison is a dangerous, dangerous game to play. Comparison of yourself versus a fake bot on Instagram or an AI model. Comparison of yourself at 40 versus yourself at 20. Comparison of what you think you used to be, most likely not accurate, to what you currently are today. But also comparison to other people's movement. People do think incorrectly that there is one perfect way to squat, one perfect way to do a split squat, one perfect way to deadlift, one perfect way to bench press, one perfect way to do a pull-up. And if you're doing it perfect, you're going to stave off injuries, you're going to maximize performance, and you are going to be bulletproof for the rest of your life. And that is not the case, because I think we have a good appreciation today that people are different. We have different shapes and sizes. Of course, you and I are not the same size in terms of height or weight, but we have different anthropometrical variables, which essentially means that we have different joint types, different angles, different lengths, different limb lengths, different morphological changes that happen at the joints and the shoulders and the hips and the spine. And we are our own unique little snowflake out there. I'm from Madison, so I use the snowflake analogy because it's -20 here in the winters and it snows a little bit, but every single snowflake is an individual. There's no two alike. And the human body is very, very similar to that. So many times the chase of working with my clients is being able to find out what works uniquely for them, what their setups look like, what their exercise looks like, what their exercise selection looks like, and be able to maximize their trainability while minimizing risk of injury or joint stress or just feeling like crap after a training session, which is super common. So being able to go through and actually identify all these different variables, it becomes very easy, because I am a big believer that everyone should do 6 foundational movement patterns, no matter who you are: squat, hinge, lunge, which is single leg work, pushing and pulling at the upper body, and then moving your body through space, which is the carry pattern. But the way in which we actually do it, you may look totally different than some Instagram model, and you may look totally different than somebody in the squat rack right next to you at your local LA Fitness. And there's nothing wrong with that. We just need to have a better appreciation for training for our body, not for someone else's.
Yeah, I really am so glad you said that. Thank you so much. It really is just the comparison part. You're right. It's that, we're soaking up so much information. Again, I'm really thankful for all the information out there, but just the amount of questions that I get of, I don't look exactly like this, or I can't do it exactly like you can in the demo, or, just all those types of things. And I know that it's so frustrating. And I remember being that beginner, to go back to when I was a beginner. I remember watching the people that I was on bodybuilding.com, which I don't know if that's a thing. I heard it wasn't anymore, but I was following those programs. I don't even know. And, watching them work out, and I would do the same lift. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing that right, but I'm doing it. I'm figuring it out. And I always did kind of think that I was doing it wrong. So there's nothing wrong with that. I'm thinking, well, they are the professional. And at this point I was not. So this was years ago, but they should be doing it probably better than I do. And then, once I obviously learned the different links, like you said, the joints, the mobility, the accessibility, that's why. And it's not that you're not going to get results if you don't do this one amazing glute superset that you saw your favorite influencer doing. You don't have to do that to get results. And I just think a lot of people feel really stuck there. So I definitely wanted to talk about that, because I know you talk about movement over the exercises. There's no mandatory exercises. There's hundreds of thousands of ways you can move your body, and not one of them is better than the other. Overall, obviously for your goals, it makes a big difference. But I just really think that's a big conversation. So I hope everyone listening absolutely heard that. If you're squatting different than me, it's okay.
And don't feel bad if you thought this before this conversation. I'll tell a quick story here. I promise it'll be a good one. But you said bodybuilding.com, and I got really triggered. I was like, bodybuilding.com. In 2018, they signed me on to do this mega program. It was called Unstoppable.
Oh,
so
really?
The Unstoppable program, we went to Boise, Idaho, and I had 2 models and these huge jacked bodybuilder guys. And we were doing basically the early stages of pain-free performance in a 24-hour different module-based learning system. And we get through and they're videoing it. There's 12 guys in the gym for a whole week. And we have editors in there. We got models in there. We got camera crews, lighting crews. And I'm literally going through with these 2 models, and they're like, man, you guys don't know what to do, how to move. but you're super jacked right now. So they couldn't do any of the movements. So we're like fixing their movements. We're going, okay, you move like this, you move like this. We get the whole thing done. I'm like, wow, this is an amazing product. This product's going to change the game for people. We have 2 models. We have me. We have live training sessions. It was so awesome. And then 3 months go through. They start to edit it down. And they're like, John, nobody is going to do this because everyone thinks that you need to be able to bench press with your elbows high if you want to hit the upper pecs. People think that you need to go ass to grass on the squat if you're going to glow your quads. And they're like, this is way too smart for people. Good thing that was 2018. And I think we have learned a thing or two in the last 8 years, but that's still super common. Even one of the biggest distributors of fitness information in the world, they knew what the marketplace wanted to hear. And the marketplace wanted to hear that, hey, just do everything generically, all the same for everyone all the time. And those are the people that end up in my courses. Those are the people that end up working with me personally and in my teams trying to rebuild their bodies, because you cannot jam a square peg into a round hole repeatedly over time. Your body's going to break down. Your body's going to give you a red flag and a red sign signal to say, hey, we got to be doing something different. And it's amazing how generic we've become in the amount of inundation that we have in the fitness industry today. It's like, I think it needs to be stated out there that 99.9% of Instagram is not educational. It's not informational. It is essentially curated bullshit. So somebody could get a click, somebody could get a like, or somebody could shill a supplement, a drug, or some 99-cent training program. And these are the ones that are really confusing the mass marketplace. And it becomes super frustrating for career professionals like you and I, because when you get inundated with that amount of volume of information over time, and people's BS detectors aren't as good as ours because they're not professionals in this field, it's really hard to stave off a lot of that bad information. And this is where we run into the pain and injury rates being higher in 2025 than they ever were before in fitness industry history. And you're like, how could that possibly be? We have more physical therapists. We have more personal trainers. We have athletic trainers. We have physicians that are doing all this stuff. The system was broken, but also the fitness industry isn't doing anything to keep us healthy. And I think that there is some changing waves in the fitness industry today to at least try to be a little bit more well-rounded. People are starting to talk about zone 2 cardio, and people are starting to talk about, strength and conditioning for women specifically to be able to battle through peri and post-menopause. So there are some interesting conversations out there, but I don't think that there's enough actionable information out there for people to make qualified decisions on what actually to do. But that's why we're working at what we're working at.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because you're right. It is a huge problem that frustrates me to absolutely no end. And I know that I don't have huge issues with my body, not a ton of pain, but what I do have, knee pain, 100% is because of I was trying to squat a certain way and keep knees not over the toe, just all the typical things that you hear. And for a long time I did that. And, till I realized obviously you don't need to do that. But it honestly took me working with other people to really see it. Again, it's not, you can read in the textbook, there's a certain way to do things. And then it's working with other people that you think, well, there's no way that you could squat ass to grass with those femurs. Are you kidding me? Like, your femurs are twice the size of mine. We're not getting, I'm just little. Like, it's so different. But you're right. I mean, we have more of that. Our BS meters are higher. We have that education, which means it's our job then to teach the masses. But it is harder to get a click rate when you're not talking about your ass being big enough for a charcuterie board. I'm talking about being healthy in your 40s. It's not, it's not cool.
I'm okay with that today. It's like, I know I'll never have 5 million followers on social media, but the information will speak to the right people, and it will continue to create momentum. And people do appreciate it when the results are actually there. Part of the way that I got started kind of like in the mainstream fitness industry is that when I was working over in China, I was 13 hours different. I was working at Olympic Center, and I was 13 hours difference between where all my family was. So I had no one to talk to, and nobody was speaking English over there either. So I was like one of 6 English speakers at Olympic Village. And all of a sudden I was like, I have all this free time on my hands because I have nothing to do other than work like 12 hours a day. So I got reached out by this website called tnation.com, bodybuilding.com. Both of those reached out at the same time. They're like, do you want to write some articles for us?
Wow.
It's like, sure, I have nothing else to do. I might as well write some articles. And right there and then started to write a little bit more mainstream to the point of like, hey, I'm going to educate based on what I've done in my entire career right now. If people don't like it, I don't really give a shit. If people don't read it, I also don't give a shit. But this is what works for my clients. This is what is working for my athletes.
Yeah.
I hope it works for everyone if you actually go through and read it and watch the videos and do all this stuff. And that was in 2013. So it's been the same way ever since. But I think that as the social dynamics of just the world in general change, as the algorithms change, as all this stuff changes, as long as you can kind of just stay true to yourself, no matter what you do, fitness or anything else, then you know that it'll always come back around to you where people, the right people, will always be able to get a result from what you're being able to educate them with. And then when you can get a result for somebody, they are truly appreciative of that. And that's what starts to create some of these like sparks for people. And that's what we're always looking at. It's like, it's really all that matters out there today is being able to like service other people. You know, as personal trainers, as coaches, as therapists, whatever you may be, we are in the service-based profession. I think many times, like, we've lost sight of that because of social media. It's the me. Oh, I'm a coach. No, you're not. You never worked with anybody. If you're a true coach, it's a servicing of another person. It's putting their goals and their expectations and their ability to do things on the line and trying to get them on a path where they can actually get to where they need to be. And you need to be the guide of that journey. You need to support them throughout that journey. And it's a very selfless profession. We need to get back to that in the fitness industry. Is like, hey, we need to take best care of our clients, whether that's in person or remote online, whether they're working with team training, whatever it may be. It's about the client. But so much of today, like there's this heavy stigma on coaches, or fake coaches, I should say, on Instagram and on social media, that is the me mentality. And I don't blame the general public for saying like, hey, these are not professional people. Your profession isn't actually a real thing, because that is what they are thinking all personal trainers are. And it's just not true, but it is true in the realm of the fake internet world.
Yeah, what they're saying. No, you're right. It is easy. It's easy for me to just put out the content that I put out because it's true. It's authentic. It's not curated. I don't have to think about what am I going to say is a great superset for growing glutes, because I don't think that there is, there's not. So I'm not going to worry about that content. But you're right. It all comes back to, what we believe. And that's what I do is great. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm going to say what's true. And because again, you're not going to get results from me if I'm saying something that's not. And it's actually helping people, like you said. Let's talk to I'm 44, so perimenopause. Let's talk about that for a moment. I know you have a program. You have a male and female. You have a ton of different programs, but let's talk about those. And especially let's talk to me about my perimenopause self, and what that looks like, what that feels like, what you see, just so my ladies can feel good, validated, normal for a while.
Yeah, it's an eye-opener like we were talking about. Like you're hitting certain stages of life and you're like, things feel different. And you're probably the outlier, Christy, but like a vast majority of people, they start to feel the mileage on their bodies at 35, 40, 42, 45. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, it's age that got me. Maybe, but there's a lot of different cofactors in that statement. I think a lot of the things when it comes to dealing with perimenopause is being able to go in and go, hey, what's the low-hanging fruit that we can start getting at right away, right here, right now, that maybe has been neglected over the last 10 years, 20 years, maybe even 30 years. And we can start there, because I think that is going to be extraordinarily empowering to actually move the needle a little bit forward for many of these ladies. And instead of generically talking about it, those big things in my experience for these ladies that are 40 to 50 years old that are in this season of life are, hey, are you actually strength training? I'm not talking about lifting 10-pound dumbbells, progressive strength training on the big foundational movement patterns that we're talking about. Vast majority of times, that's low-hanging fruit that ladies can start doing right away. And they're like, whoa, like there's nothing more empowering than being strong and being able to develop strength and being able to see you get stronger over time. That is probably the most neglected one. The second one is being able to actually work in and being able to prioritize building muscle. It sounds so counterintuitive because we've always been told like, oh, I don't want to get too big. I don't want to get too bulky. I don't want to not have to fit into my clothes. In all actuality, it's like we've been shying away from actual muscle building, and it's been hurting some of our metabolic health. but it's also been making some of these symptomologies a little bit more serious, especially as we get into some of these stages. And those two are huge. And I think that we have some louder voices in the women's health side of the fitness industry today that are like, strength train, build muscle. But then it's like, okay, do both of those things, but don't give up your Pilates, don't give up yoga, don't give up running, don't give up all the things that got you to this point. Start to layer them all together. And I work with 72% of my clients being females over the age of 40. So this is a population that I'm like, I'm having these conversations on a day-to-day basis. And I would say almost every single one of them comes into me with a huge amount of potential because of the things that maybe they aren't doing to the right level yet. They're dabbling in strength training, but they're not progressive strength training. They're trying to build muscle, but they're not prioritizing nutrition, protein, and carbohydrates, and being able to balance these macronutrients and fuel around the training windows. They're not necessarily doing that quite yet. And then the big mistake that people make is like, I heard on 60 Minutes that we need to only be strength training. Cardio is going to kill us. No. Let's keep everything else in. And if you enjoy it, that's super important. But this tends to be that catapult into this new stage of life that many of these people and these ladies need. The empowerment model of being able to actively and progressively start moving in and knowing very well that there's different layers, there's deeper layers. But I think that the major factors of what we are championing over and over again is that what you've been neglecting needs to now be the priority. And it's more important now than ever before because we only have so much opportunity window to get the most out of it. And the earlier we start and the more buffering zone that we give our health, the best opportunity that we have to thrive into our 50s, 60s, and beyond. And there's going to be different physiological changes. There's going to be different hormonal changes. And I'm not discounting or neglecting those facts. But I think that everything is better when you're stronger. Everything is better when you're building muscle mass. Everything's better when you have the high VO2 and high conditioning. And everything's better when your body moves well and you're pain-free. So putting yourself in the best possible foundational position that allows you to amplify all those other sprinkles that we can start to get when it comes to nutrition, dietetics, and then reaching out and working with women's health physicians to be able to start to balance some of these things hormonally.
Yeah, 100%. It was an absolute wake-up call. Even for me, as someone, I've been lifting for a while, definitely had some health struggles and mental struggles where I backed off for a while. But thank God, I'm so glad that I did because I have that foundation. I think that was an eye-opener for me of like, if I didn't already have this base of muscle and then went into and knowledge even that I have, or just the habits that I have of doing it, even if I am tired and just showing up. If I would have hit perimenopause and this shit would have started happening to me and I didn't have that foundation, I mean, that's where I know some of my clients are. So I know exactly how that would feel. And I know how I would feel doing that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not that it's impossible. There are definitely new setbacks. It's kind of just one of those pivots. I talk a lot about pivoting. I talk a lot about controlling what you can. And when your body is changing, you have to treat it differently. Now your focus has to be a little more on the mobility and the flexibility and the stretching and the taking care of your joints. Whereas previously in my 20s, I could lift as heavy as I wanted and absolutely nothing hurt. So it's different.
I think everything, you just have less wiggle room as you get older. And it's not just age, it's again, the chronic mileage that you have on your body, on everything that's been happening, whether it's your lifestyle stresses, whether it's poor sleep, whether it's nutrition that wasn't locked in for the last 20 years, or whether you just haven't been exercising or have been exercising maybe a little less quality than we would like to see. But I think once we start to get these things in, it's like now the potential is there. But interestingly enough, especially for the ladies, so I have a program called Female Functional Physique, and it is one of my most popular programs. My wife and I, she's 47, she's super jacked, strong. Like everyone wants to look like Lala, my wife.
Is she in your stories? Is it your wife that's in your stories? Yeah, she is amazing. Yeah.
Fellow coach as well. But we came together on this program and we're like, hey, what do we need to do to best serve this population? And we're going to just make quality decisions based on, hey, we know a lot of people are going to be doing the same thing. So how can this serve 80% of people for 80% of the time? And then we'll customize everything else inside of coaching inside the app. But what do women want? So that was like I'm not trying to be Mel Gibson here, but like, what do women want? Like, so we came together.
Yeah, it's a good question.
So my wife's in this conversation, and I have like 3 or 4 different females on my staff that, hey, we're asking the question of like, okay, we've all trained so many people, thousands of people at this point in time. What are the commonalities that will deliver the tangible benefits that we're talking about here in terms of health and longevity through the stage of life? But we also want to look good. It's called physique for a reason. So what are those things?
Yep.
And how do those things actually come together with pain-free performance principles meshed to this population? And it ended up being very, very interesting and almost in alignment with almost every other program that I have that is more health and longevity based. We are going to prioritize posterior chain. We are going to build your upper back. We are going to build your glutes. We are going to build your hamstrings. And a vast majority of ladies and men, I think, they like the aesthetic of having a big, strong posterior chain. It is the power look. And there is something functional about having that as well, which I'm super into. But I think there's a certain truth about being able to have a strong and chiseled core and also being able to have arms that look like they can perform. And all of a sudden we're like, wow, so we have glutes, we have core, we have shoulders and arms. Like this sounds like the key focus of female functional physique. So we started writing the programming. We started having beta tests to go through with the ladies rolling through it, having really, really good success and enjoying the sessions. And this is how I knew it was going to be a super big hit. Because I was looking at these sessions and I was like, I want to train on this. I want to train on this program. And I was getting that feedback from a lot of other people that weren't necessarily in the target demographic. And that was just like, that was an eye-opening moment, a couple months ago being like, hey, great programming is great programming. When you fall back on the principles of strength and conditioning and hypertrophy and mobility and being able to move well, it doesn't matter what your population is. You need to be doing those principles, but then we can get 10 to 20% emphasis on one thing versus another and start to really have those results come to the forefront and be able to have it taper to the point where it's delivering across the board. But I think that's interesting. I think there are far more commonalities between even a 40 plus women's strength program than there would be on a 40 plus men's strength program or even a hypertrophy program for a 20 or 30-year-old bro. I think that the principles of being able to train the patterns, train the characteristics, and then have the biggest bang for your buck movements and the biggest bang for your buck regions being emphasized, those are always going to be very, very similar. And I think that there's more individuality person to person than there is male to female.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly how my Fit Club is laid out, kind of through the years, realizing what do people want? It's really the same thing that I want. I mean, what do I want? It's kind of the majority. So that's exactly how my Fit Club is laid out. We do different seasons of building and cutting and, the macros are aligned. And yeah, it's exactly, I think people are surprised though to hear that. And I don't remember kind of learning that myself. I always think like, was I surprised to hear that? Probably, because I think when I was back in the bodybuilding.com era, it was like men had, bodybuilding program. It was more just bench pressing. And the women had, I don't even remember what program, Jamie Eason is the one I used to follow, whatever she was kind of doing, but it was different. There weren't men and women in the same programming. So maybe it wasn't taught to me directly, but I thought that for whatever reason. And then as I'm building programs for men and women will start with me and they're like, well, my husband wants to do this program. Can you do this program or do you need to write him a new one? I'm like, well, you can do the same thing and just emphasis on whatever, trust whatever he wants to work on differently. And you're so right, but people are just so surprised of like, I can do the same thing. It's that boring factor. It's that I don't have to mix it up. I can, keep the basics. And I think that's interesting too, that we always think everything should be so different and so specific and change all the time.
I think it's due to Instagram marketing. Digital marketing has taught us this because over the last 10 years, you have these quote unquote fitness business coaches and they're like niche down as hard as you possibly can. Only serve 37-year-old women, not 38 and not 35. And do that and deliver them this, and this in this time frame. And it's so niche down that our market now goes, if my name's not John, I can't train on this program because that's for Bob.
That's not for me. Yeah.
No, like there's more commonalities.
You're right.
More commonalities than there are differences. And I remember like sitting in like graduate level university courses being like, well, women can recover 15 seconds faster than men between heavy bouts of strength in the 5 to 8 RM schemes. And women have better endurance than men because they have less type 2X fibers. And then I get into the real world and start coaching real live human beings. And I'm like, come on, guys. That was another big reason for the reason pain-free performance is the way that it is. I've read enough textbooks in my day to know that it's like, hey, it's a good starting point, but like, let's make this real and actionable based on the people actually doing things with these populations and not just like regurgitating research. There's a lot of research in pain-free performance, but it's all going to be broken down to usable forms. But yeah, that's an interesting one because it did take me 12 or 13 years to be able to write a quote unquote women specific program. But I don't know if I had I don't know if that was the right move because now I'm wanting to train on that program. So I'm like having like second thoughts on it.
Is it even women specific if I want to do
it? That's the question.
What does that say about you, John? No, it's a good question. You said something about your pain-free performance again. That was something that it just made me think of something I want to talk about too. I always hear, I think we just think it's normal to have pain as we get older, but I know we're talking about the mileage on your body and your joints and and all the things. And some of that, of course, is obviously going to happen depending on injuries we've had, things like that. But it's just so, one thing I was reading through your book and I was just kept thinking, why do we think it's so like, of course I have pain, I'm getting older. Of course I'm gaining weight, I'm getting older. Of course it's one of those things. And as I'm reading through and, looking at all of the warm-ups and looking at the sets, just everything in your book, I'm thinking it's not normal to have pain when you get, it doesn't have to be normal. So give me your thoughts on that. Was that part of what made you want to write the book? Where did that fall into place of, hearing clients say that? How do you meet that?
There's nothing normal about being in pain, no matter how old you are. There's also nothing normal about losing your health, no matter how old you are or no matter the health battles that you've had in the past. I think that we need to chase down being pain-free. We need to chase down rebuilding our health, but it's an active process that we need to participate in. And that's not going to be for everyone, but for those people that want to be able to chase down and take self-autonomy of their own health and wellness, then absolutely this is attainable. The idea of pain-free performance came from my work with my athletes early on in my career. I was in the business of being able to prep $1 million athletes to go out on the field and play. I worked on MLB and NFL off-season programs, and I would have them for 6 to 9 weeks at a time. And I wasn't trying to make the best athletes in the world better athletes. I wasn't trying to make the best athletes in the world faster or stronger or jump higher. I was in the business of making sure that they were healthy. I wanted them to be orthopedically healthy, aka pain-free. And I wanted them to be systemically healthy so they could actually recover and they could go out and do the things that they love to do, which was play their sport. And that came full circle around because why should that be any different for me or you or every mom or dad out there? That should all be the goal, to be able to be healthy, to be able to be pain-free, but to be able to chase that down and lay that as the foundation that we can build upon. We have a really big problem today in the fitness industry of specialization before generalization. Generalization for pain-free performance is being able to get all your movement patterns down, be able to be pain-free, as much pain-free as possible, and then be able to then stack upon specialty, upon goals and needs and different variables on top of that. But without being able to move well, without being able to reduce your pain signaling, without being able to rebuild your systemic health, that you're lacking the foundation that you need to be able to thrive for a lifetime. But really, that was the origins of trying to get people pain-free, because as a personal trainer and as people that work in the fitness industry today, the biggest limiting factor for a personal trainer to being able to get their client their results are that they burn out or they break down rapidly. So meaning that they have too much pain, they say, hey, I associate exercise with pain, therefore I'm not interested in doing this anymore. Or they actually get hurt under client and coach management, or they burn out too quick going from an all or nothing based approach. So how do we actually avoid all of this stuff and actually just get somebody on the road to being able to have sustainable success? And no matter who my clients are, no matter what their walk in life, the thing that can potentiate them more than ever before is to be able to take them from being painful and having recovery problems and having movement dysfunctions and deficits and being able to redo that, unlock their potential again, and have them almost have a brand new beginning. That is going to be the thing that no matter what the population is, it is not going to bias against. If you are feeling good, you are going to want to go and train. When you're going to want to go and train, you're going to get consistent. When you're consistent, then you can peel back the onion and start working smarter. And it all starts to create momentum in the right position. But, that is the number one thing. It's like exercise doesn't need to hurt. Exercise doesn't need to be a painful endeavor. And if it is, we need to do something different. We need to find a different activity, or we need to find a different way forward. And a lot of those tools and those systems, that's what pain-free performance teaches.
Yeah, I love that. It's true. It's one of those things that you just think, I always thought like, well, getting older, this happens. And that's just what people say. I guess the people that maybe aren't going to go do anything about it. When I'm hurt, I'm usually like, well, I need to figure out how to go backwards a little bit and figure out my range of motion or figure out certain things and kind of, fix that. But I realize that's kind of hard. You do have in the back of the book the programming, which is, I wrote it down, reclaim, rebuild, regain. So that's your structure, correct? For kind of not, I guess I just said going backwards, but it's reclaiming to, get yourself feeling better. Is that the structure that you walk everybody through? Or if I'm coming to you saying, I'm feeling really good, I don't have any pain, is there a difference there?
Yeah, so let's define these 3 different phases. This is how I would take a long-term client that's working with me for multiple years, up to like a decade at this point, and be able to have seasonality with the focuses that we have, or go in a pure rebuild like the programs in the book. So the first phase is usually like 4 to 8 weeks long, and it's called reclaim. It's essentially reclaiming your movement and getting you pain-free. So it's going to have a lot of emphasis on mobility. It's going to have a lot of emphasis on opening up your movement patterns at a full range of motion. This is going to be key because, again, it's going to stack the bricks into the foundation of your pyramid. And then from there, you move on to a regains phase where you go in and you start to actually a rebuild phase where you start to go in and start to stack strength and hypertrophy. And those are really big for progression. So we start to load heavier, we start to build muscle, we start to get some of that muscle armor on the body to be able to take all the advantages that we got from the reclaim phase of reclaiming your movement patterns to be able to then challenge the movement patterns with heavier loads and more muscle building stimulation loads. And then the regains phase is awesome because that's when we actually start to look at performance. We're like, wow, we're hitting not PRs, but we're hitting pain-free PRs. We're going in and working power and athleticism a little bit more in this phase. And we're able to actually feel like a lifelong athlete. Even if you were never an athlete in your life, you're able to move through space and you should be confident in the way that you're moving. So then I cycle that back around. So that should be able to take us anywhere from 12 to 24 weeks. Usually my clients will do 2 cycles of those different training blocks throughout a year's time. But what we don't do is hey, everyone just goes into regain right away. It's like, let's hit PRs first week and then second week, then third week. And then that's just not how it works in terms of being able to be well-rounded. So being able to restore your movement, being able to build the movement up with muscle armor and then perform with those movements, that is kind of like the phasic structure that I would program off of. But it's a lot more flexible than it sounds. It's not like it's very generic and cookie cutter, but these are the general emphases that we would have on these physical characteristics. But the number one thing is that we try to get as healthy as possible in that first phase. Second one, we get as strong as possible because a stronger person is going to be a healthier person. And then the third one is that we're able to perform and actually see a lot of the benefits that we just worked our asses off to get in the previous 2 phases. And we go, wow, I'm locked in here because I can notably see my progression. And there's nothing like stacking weight on the bar. There's nothing like seeing your body composition change. There's nothing like seeing actual results. People always ask me how do you get people to buy into this? The results are there. And when you can produce results for people, they're going to want to have more of that. When you can make people feel better than feeling like shit, they're going to want more of that. And that is what gets people consistent. It's we have to have relationships. We have to have smart programming and things that can work for schedules, lifestyles, equipment, gym considerations, all that stuff. But if we can just get results, get people on the path, then why would they ever jump off if they're feeling better than they ever before? It's like the limitless pill sometimes when we can get the right programming in for people and them actually changing some of their lifestyle and optimizing it.
Yeah, I love that. I love the structure of that. It's a lot of what I do as well. I think that's just the structure for building holistic programming. I mean, if you have an injury or if you don't know what you're doing, I'm not going to take someone who's never been to the gym before and throw them under a, progressive overload structure and, start with, I mean, there's just no way that's not going to work. it's not going to work. So I liked how that was structured, and it made me want to do it. I'm like, that's the thing about the book is just like, well, I like that. It's like starting with that foundation. I think everybody kind of gets a little nervous with like, well, starting a little, like I want to start big. I want to go hard. And I talk about that a lot on this podcast. So everybody's already aware we're not doing any of that, but starting slow, laying that foundation. You can't build anything on a weak foundation. So I really liked the way that was put together, as I like everything in the book and everything on your page. It's just very good. So everybody go scroll. Today I was eating breakfast and I was just on your Reels page and I just was scrolling. It's just so much good information and I was just loving it. So thank you for putting that out
You're
there.
welcome.
I'm glad I got to meet you online and now, but it's really just nice. I don't have a lot of guests on the podcast. It's not that there's not a lot of people out there. There are, but I'm just very specific with who I want to talk to and who I want to bring into my people's world. I love their trust. And I just think this is going to be really, really helpful. So I really appreciate all of the information. Where can everybody find you? I will put the link to the book and I can put your link in my show notes, but go ahead and tell them where to find you.
Yeah, at Dr. John Rusin, DrJohnRusin, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Those are the best places to find me. And then Pain Free Performance book, you can get it wherever books are sold. Usually Amazon is the place to go because they continue to discount it pretty steeply to get it in your hands for even better price.
Nice. Perfect. Well, I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge and your authenticity with us. And we'll send everybody your way.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to today's show. Go ahead and leave a rating and a review. And of course, follow the podcast so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And I would love it so much if you came to connect with me over on Instagram at Christy Castillo Fit. I will see you next time.